like 8, 9, I had to go to madrasa. Usually I went to madrasa after school every day, and then I had to go to madrasa on a Saturday, and I was like, yo, this sucks. I just want to like have fun at the weekend. But then at madrasa, I met Wisaal, and that made it really fun. So I've known Wisaal since I was a girl, like much younger. And then last year, I went to a talk to see the director of the District 6 Museum, and who walks in? Wisaal. So this cosmic reunion happened, maybe, I want to say 30 years later, but not that old. And then like over 20 years later, we were reunited, and she, in Amsterdam last year, I think it was on Eid, we celebrated Eid together and just started talking about this idea, and 1 year later, here we are. I am doing my PhD with Tom Hokevorst on Cape Malay foodways and how Indonesian food changed when it came to South Africa and what drove that change. So, I start with like food as my focal point, and we can also see that we can start with music at the beginning. So both projects are interested in how history is carried through the body, not only through the archives. So we look at things like taste, song, performance, and all of these, how they then carry memory. And what I think is so important about the work that I'm doing, well, I do think my work is important, and projects like this, is that decolonialism doesn't really happen only at universities, and it doesn't only happen in one space, right? It can happen in so many ways, and so many of our ancestors and forefathers were doing that work before they had any language to say this is decolonialism. So they all paved the way for me. There's also joy, and joy is a form of resistance. And so singing together, dancing together, sharing food, celebrating are not like distractions from history. They are ways, I think, of refusing to allow colonial violence to define the limits of our collective lives. So that's why I think that there is some resonance between the Taste Project and what Wisaal is doing, because it reminds us of archives are not only written, right? They are sung, they're tasted, they're danced, and they're lived.
The backstory, which makes it even more special, I think, for us. This project has been an incredibly important one for me because, just like Amaal said, I'm very interested in the sensory experience when it comes to issues of restitution, reparation, reconciliation. That's where I work. Those are the avenues in which I work. I use the medium of visual art to express myself. It's not just us and material, the material value and the technological value outside of our bodies that we need to rely on, but that the body itself is an amazing technological tool of memory. And so, as people of color navigating these intellectual community spaces and trying to bridge those gaps, it's so important for us to not just use our grants to stand here and give an epic keynote, which we can also do, but to also bring in the community and show and share how that technological system works. It's not just for dignity's sake, but also so that we can expand our way of thinking around memory through a visceral experience, something that we can't force down you with words and keynotes, but something that you can take home in the heart, something that can shift you in a place where the intellect maybe blocks you because, like Amaal says, we cut off at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. when the brain goes to sleep, but as we dream, as we experience love and connections and relationships, those other parts of our technological, biological system all kick in, our subconscious memory. And so I think the new age of researchers, we are so adamant in seeing how can we bring in different modes and ways of talking about these very important things like reparation, restitution, reconciliation. They're not just words, right? They mean something. And so really my research is about looking at these facets of decolonization and trying to make them make sense for people in the Global South, which is why my research kicked off about 4 years ago now with this map of the Global South. If you look at this map, everything in grey are all the VOC ports that were active. These were all the slave routes. And what I did was, when I first looked at these maps from the VOC in the archive in South Africa, I realized that the way I was looking at the world, I was constantly saying to myself, we're going up, we're going down, up to Europe, down to South Africa. And it just didn't feel right, you know. So once I turned it upside down and I just made the focus us, it felt so much easier. This big work felt, for the first time, digestible for me. And it was just a simple switch, but something happened in my brain where I thought, now I can take it on, now I can dream, now I can start putting things together because it feels like it's possible, right? So this is the infamous map that got me into all this trouble. And really, today is about sonic repatriation.